Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello, welcome, welcome. How are you this fine and beautiful morning? As you say, Linda, what a beautiful morning it is. Welcome to our YouTube channel. We are actually going to be changing our identity a little bit, but all will be revealed very soon. How are you this fine morning? My name's Claudia. I'm a nutritional therapist and eating psychology coach with 18 years clinical experience. I lecture at different nutrition colleges, and of course, I'm here on YouTube every Friday morning at 11 a.m. So if you like what I'm saying, I'm always trying to simplify nutrition science and eating psychology into a beautiful fusion that is genuinely going to make a difference to how you feel and how you live your life. So here we are. Nutrition for Cognition, part 3. So just to give a very quick recap, the first session we looked at underlying factors, mechanisms, call it what you like, underlying drivers, health drivers that can contribute to issues with cognition and mild cognitive impairment and all the way through. Now, hopefully you found this mini series really empowering, because the message that I'm really hoping that you take away here is truly there is so much we can do to boost our cognition, to boost our brain power. There really is. So we talked about underlying drivers the first session. Then last week we talked about specific diets. The food is always the foundation. What are we eating? What nourishment are we giving ourselves that is truly going to fuel our bodies and our minds as well? And we looked at the mind diet, we looked at the Mediterranean diet, we looked at the DASH diet. So please go back, have a look at that. We looked at specific foods as well. So or you can always refer back to that session. And today we're going to be diving into supplements. Now, I find this area really exciting because there's so much research around cognitive function and various supplements that we're going to talk through. But I thought we'd start with looking at supplements that you can test for first, because you wouldn't want to take supplements unless you really needed to, or unless you felt they were really going to enhance your health. So for example, let's start with iron. That's a classic one. So iron deficiency, we know in children can cause failure to thrive. We know it can absolutely affect their cognitive development and ability in the classroom. We all know that we feel a bit tired when we're a bit low in iron, don't we? So it really can affect our brain function, because the hemoglobin, iron helps with the hemoglobin, which helps oxygenation of the whole body, including, of course, our brains. We need to be oxygenating our brain function. But at the same time, you wouldn't want to have too much iron in your body. You wouldn't want to have excessive, just because. And some people have a condition called hemochromatosis, which is sort of the opposite of an iron deficiency anemia, where your body is storing too much iron in the body. And with hemochromatosis, you're looking at bloodletting effectively to help reduce your iron levels slightly. But excess iron is associated with oxidative stress. So just as iron is as an active metal, out on your railings or in your garden or wherever, and it can rust, so too excess iron in the body can have an oxidative effect, which can cause neuronal damage to the neurons in the body. And it can also contribute to insulin resistance and diabetes-induced cognitive decline. In Alzheimer's disease, iron content in the brain is significantly increased in vulnerable regions, which reduces the antioxidant defenses. So only focus on iron if you're low in ferritin, and it is, of course, a test that you can easily ask your GP to help you with. So and to test for. Now, if you're low in iron, the question is, why are you low in iron? Is there enough iron in your diet? And sometimes when we're vegetarian or vegan, it can be even more challenging. And this is where the non-heme iron, for example, in typically, we always think of Popeye, don't we, with the spinach, and he knocked back the spinach and then his muscles grew and everything else. It can be difficult for the body to convert non-heme iron. So this is where something like a lucky fish, a lucky iron fish, which is literally a little piece of iron that you can put into your casseroles, into your tomato-based casseroles, especially because the acidity of the tomatoes will leach iron into your food, or cast iron cookware like a lovely Le Creuset pot or pan for cooking in can also help. And then, of course, the heme iron in our diet is from particularly the red meats. Are so famous, aren't they? The steaks, etc. And then if you need to supplement, like I sometimes get low in iron, then you would always want to go for iron bisglycinate, which is a gentle iron. It's not going to contribute to constipation, which is so classic with regular iron supplements. So that is iron, making sure that you've got good iron status, that it's not too low, it's not too high. We're just like bang, where it just right, like Goldilocks, just right. So another nutritional nutrient that we need to consider, of course, are the omega oils for our brain function. Now, again, this is something you can test for. It's not commonly through your GP, but you can go to foodforthebrain.org. We talked about their amazing cognitive test that they offer. So foodforthebrain.org, and there's an omega-3 index test you could order if you wanted to there. I think it's £49, £45, £49, something like that, if you wanted to. If you know that you're eating oily fish, nuts and seeds, so oily fish, just to recap, mackerel, herring, salmon, pilchards, I'm sure there's more. Tuna, but we don't want to have too much tuna because of mercury. But if you know that you're having enough omega oils, maybe you're taking an omega oil supplement as well, then maybe you don't need to test. It's completely up to you. But when you take an omega oil supplement, and this is where it's harder for vegans and vegetarians, because it's really the DHA that's so helpful from the fish, the DHA that's hard to get naturally in diets, vegetarian and vegan diets. But this DHA is particularly helpful for the brain and for cognition. And there's a really interesting study, so longitudinal study published in 2023 of 1,135 patients without dementia. The average age was 73, and then the ones who took omega oils, remember they're all without dementia at this point, the analysis found that a higher intake of omega-3 could lower risk of all-cause dementia or cognitive decline by about 20%. 20%. That's massive, isn't it? I mean, when we think about it, the brain has so much fat. The brain is made up of so much fat. It's 60 to 70% fat. So it makes sense that we need to get the right fats into the brain. Apparently, so the DHA, that part of the omega oils, it makes approximately 20% of total brain phospholipids. The DHA and the EPA, so these are the two components of the omega oils, both of them help reduce neuroinflammation, so inflammation in the brain. They reduce thrombotic risk because they're also natural blood thinners, so they're helping prevent clotting, for example, in strokes. And they also increase neuronal survival. There's so many lovely words in this. Neuronal survival. So that's survival of the neurons. The neurons are the cells in the brain. It's just amazing. It regulates function and structure of the neurons themselves, of many other cells as well in the brain. So more studies around omega oils and healthy adults. So the largest study to date was from the UK Biobank, and it looked at 267,000 participants. And there's stronger association. Okay, let me see. And then as also a 2022 systemic review, and they found that a higher omega-3 rich diet improved learning, memory, cognition, and blood flow in the brain. And then omega-3 supplementation led to higher cognitive performance. So do you remember there was a big drive years ago? Do you remember the Eskimo 3 for children when they were in school? Make sure the children get the omega oils. It's for all of us, for all our lives. It's not exclusively for children. Now, there's something really, really interesting that maybe you're taking your omega oils, and in order for your omega oils to truly be effective in the brain, we have to have good methylation pathways. Now, so what the way research is going, and what's really interesting is that there are new studies emerging now saying, does homocysteine levels, does our homocysteine level affect our ability of our EPA and DHA, of our omega oils, to have really positive benefits on the brain? And so what they're discovering is that people might be taking their omega-3 oils, but if they've got elevated homocysteine levels, it could be preventing all the benefits. So a homocysteine is an easy test that you can ask your GP for. And homocysteine typically is associated with a higher risk. A high homocysteine is associated with a higher risk of heart disease. But now there's so much more evidence around actually homocysteine is also associated, strongly associated with cognitive decline. And we spoke about this in the first talk on cognitive function. So just a couple of talks ago, we talked about it. And you might remember that the solution to reducing homocysteine levels, it's a really easy fix, is to make sure you've got the right B vitamins, folate, B6, and B12. If you manage to get a blood test with your GP, it shows your homocysteine is a bit high. There's a brilliant supplement on the market by Thorne Research, so THORNE, Thorne Research, and it's called Methylguard. Methylguard. So that's a great solution if needed to help you. But B vitamins in general are also really important for our cognitive function. And I know we've spoken about B12 and how some people have thought they're developing Alzheimer's, dementia, and it turns out it was just severe B12 deficiency. So checking your B12 levels is another really good thing you can do. And you can ask your GP for a B12 check for sure. But all the B vitamins in general, B1, B2, B3, all of them, B5, B6, B9, B12, there are lots of them. And they're all involved in different functions within the brain: energy production, making the neurotransmitters themselves, transporting. Every single B vitamin is allowed VIP access across the blood-brain barrier, that BBB. Again, that we talked about that in the first session. So we want to make sure that not only have we got really good levels of B vitamins in our diet, for example, meat, fish, legumes, dairy can have some B vitamins, leafy greens, whole grains. So B12 can be challenging for vegans. This is where the nutritional yeast is a good one to help with that. But to make sure in general that you're getting enough B vitamins in your diet, and if you're not, to possibly supplement with a B complex, especially if you're at risk of deficiency. So this is the vegetarians and vegans are more likely, but also anyone who drinks alcohol regularly. Alcohol destroys B vitamins. So people with low fruit and veg intake, they're very likely to have lower, not only magnesium, but also folic acid. People who have lots of processed foods, then again, they're going to have less whole grains, and lots of B vitamins in those lovely whole grains too. And then, of course, some medications affect our ability to absorb B vitamins, especially B12. So the B12 gets absorbed in the stomach, and medications like omeprazole, Gaviscon, Rennies, anything that people are taking for their heartburn puts a coating on the stomach lining, and that coating prevents the B12 from being absorbed. So if you are taking omeprazole, please make sure every 6 months you ask your GP for a B12 test, vitamin B12 test. Now, vitamin B12 can actually stay in our bodies for about 2 years. Even though it's water soluble, it can stay in our body for 2 years. So you might think, oh, I'm absolutely fine. I've been taking omeprazole for a year and I'm absolutely fine. You need to keep having those B12 checks because it could suddenly drop off. Another interesting area of study around cognitive function and supplements are the carotenoids. Now, I wanted to mention carotenoids because I know for a lot of our Gold Star members in the past, we've looked at eye health and we've looked at supplements like MacuShield to help with and to prevent macular degeneration in the eyes. But what's so interesting is that the carotenoids, for example, lutein, is a very famous carotenoid, and it's stored in the back of the eye, and it can be very helpful for the back of the eye. But think about the location of the back of the eye. It's right in the brain. So it makes sense that these carotenoids can really help our brain function as well. And they're all the bright colors. So do you remember with the MacuShield supplement that people are taking? It's the yellow it's the marigold flowers extract that is what's in this supplement that's so very helpful. And what some studies have shown that patients with dementia have lower lycopene, blood lycopene, lower carotene, lower lutein, zeaxanthin, all these supplements that are actually in the MacuShield. So if you're concerned about your eye health and you're taking MacuShield, know that it's probably helping your cognitive function as well, or hopefully it is. So yeah, I mean, okay, so that's carotenoids. Moving on to vitamin D. Now, vitamin D is, again, something you can test. If you're lucky enough to live up in Scotland, then apparently with your GP, you're entitled to 1 vitamin D test per year. I've not heard of many people in England having vitamin D tests through their doctors, but it's certainly something you can get done privately through MediChecks or through the foodforthebrain.org website. It's not usually expensive. Normally it's about £35. And it can be worth doing, especially if you've been noticing over this last winter, you've been having lots of colds and flus and bugs, and you just think maybe my immune system's a bit low. Maybe you've got autoimmune condition. Again, really worth testing your vitamin D if that's the case. Or maybe you're just feeling a bit low. But actually, vitamin D is a huge modulator for inflammation in the body. So it can really help with reducing inflammation in the brain. It induces amyloid beta clearance. So it's amyloid beta plaque, isn't it, that can build up with Alzheimer's disease. So it helps clearing and protecting the cells within the brain. It supports brain detoxification pathways. Yeah, it helps. I'm just reading here. Numerous studies support and demonstrate the importance of vitamin D in cognition. So hopefully you are all taking your vitamin D supplement, because even though the sun is shining, and when we go out into the sun, we want to get our forearms and our foreheads out exposed to that lovely sunlight. But remember, if we're wearing sun cream, then we're not going to be getting the vitamin D from it, and our conversion can really decline as we get older. So this will be converted D1 from the sunlight, and from the skin goes into the body as D1, then it goes to the liver, gets converted into D2, and then it finally goes to the kidneys to get converted into D3. That is the active form of vitamin D, and it's a bit of a process to get there. So if you're taking vitamin D supplements, please make sure that they're D3 first of all. but there have been lots of studies around cognition. So I've got one here of a 2020 study from the University of Manchester, explored vitamin D status in over 3,000 men throughout the UK and Europe. And they found in men, they found concentrations below 35 were most impaired. So 35 is considered normal. So I think the toxicity goes up to about 150. So you've got up to about 150. Now, it used to be, I don't know, maybe it's changed. It used to be that below 30 was considered suboptimal. I think below 15 was considered very, very deficient. But really, we want to aim for 50. But so interesting that this study showed that actually men below 35, because if you went to your doctor with the reading of 35, they might just say, oh, that's just in the normal range. So we need to be a bit careful with vitamin D, because it is a fat soluble vitamin, which means it doesn't clear. It's not water soluble. It doesn't come out in the urine. So we don't want to build up excessive levels, but we do need to make sure that we're at least 50. So it can be helpful to have a vitamin D test, even if you're supplementing. I've had lots of clients who we've done this testing for, even though they've been supplementing every single day, there still hasn't been enough to build up their levels. So sometimes it can be difficult to assimilate and absorb. So, and as we get older, it gets harder. So yeah, there we go. Right, and then on to, I get excited about this, the polyphenols. So polyphenols, some of you will remember, are plant-based compounds that have hugely beneficial health impact and health effects on the body. And we looked at a few months ago, we interviewed, was it Dalmatia olive oil from Croatia. And we learned all about the polyphenols in olive oil and how olives contain unique polyphenols that are unique to them. There's no other fruit or vegetable that contains the polyphenols that the olives have, which is part of the reason why the Mediterranean diet is so helpful for preventing cognitive decline, because it's so rich in all the fruits and vegetables, in all the polyphenols. Now, polyphenols protect and support the gut barrier. They protect the blood-brain barrier and the whole gut-brain axis. So there are different polyphenols that are quite famous in terms of brain function. Probably the first one is curcumin, which is the active component of turmeric. So I'm sure lots of you will have heard about its amazing effects, especially at reducing inflammation in the body and reducing neuroinflammation. Another one that's quite famous is ginkgo biloba for the brain. Ginkgo biloba, it's a herb. But the one that I want to talk to you about today, the one that I'm excited about, is pycnogenol, which is spelled Pycnogenol. Pycnogenol. And it's from a marine pine bark, and it really improves microcirculation. So it's going to improve circulation to the brain. It facilitates the release of nitric oxide from the vessel walls, dilates, helps with oxygenation and blood flow. It helps with attention, memory, executive functions, oxidative stress, reducing oxidative stress, helping cognitive function, mental performance, mood, and concentration. What's not to love about it? I've personally been taking it now for a little while to help blood pressure, because that's the whole reason I got into nutrition 18 years ago now, more than that. It was to help with blood pressure, and I'm still on that mission. I'm always still trying to help manage my blood pressure naturally, and the pycnogenol seems to be really helping and making a difference. And another time I'll show you this book that I've got on it now. But they did an 8-week study on 53 students aged 18 to 27, and they found that there was a 53% improvement in paced auditory serial addition test. There was 36% improvement in picture recall, 7% improvement in spatial recognition memory, and 13% increase in mental flexibility, whatever that means. So Epicnogenol is, if I was you, if you thought, right, I'm going to give my brain and my cognition a little treat for the next couple of months or something like that, I always think supplements shouldn't be lifelong sentences. Apart from obviously vitamin D and omega-3s, it's good to chop and change. And this is where you might think, right, I'm going to bring in one polyphenol, and it might be another one. Famous one, of course, is resveratrol. But I wanted to focus today on Pycnogenol. And then there's one more nutrient that I wanted to talk about today, which is CoQ10. CoQ10, it's ubiquinol. And you see, CoQ10, plasma CoQ10 was significantly associated with cognitive and executive function. It is something that we naturally produce, but it can decline as we get older, and it especially declines when people are taking statins. So that's the only reason I wanted to bring up the CoQ10 today, was to make sure that if you are taking statins, to please supplement. Just to make sure you're keeping your CoQ10 up, which will help with cognitive function too. And in terms of CoQ10, there comes in many forms, but my absolute favorite is the one that is in all the studies, which is PharmaNord, PHARMA, Pharma, and then NORD, PharmaNord ubiquinol or ubiquone. Very, very good one. Right. Okay, let me just have a look at your questions here. Oh, here's a good. Oh, thank you very much. I did wash it this morning. We're all in for a treat. Oh, thank you. Oh, it's very crackly. Oh, I'm so sorry. I think maybe it's because I had my papers in front. Okay, I won't do that again. Oh dear. Okay, I hope you could hear me okay. Can you suggest a vitamin D to take? So there are different types. So this oral spray, the Better You D3K2 is very good. It's a sublingual spray and you put it under your tongue. We've got this beautiful bed of mucous membranes there, which it just bypassed the digestive system. So I'll always remember I had this lovely lady who came to see me who was diagnosed eventually with lupus. And I tested her vitamin D levels and she said, but Claudia, I've just spent 3 weeks in St. Lucia. My vitamin D is going to be fine. I was like, well, I think we better just check. And of course, it was rock bottom. It was 7. And really, really low. At that point, I think 7 was the lowest I'd seen. I was a bit horrified, to be honest. I was like, right, how are we going to boost this lady and lady's vitamin D? And she was taking vitamin D, and she'd just come from St. Lucia. So until we got her to a doctor's appointment, I said, just try the spray. And she was, and then we got her to a doctor's appointment. She was taking the pills, and again, it wasn't moving up fast enough. So in the end, we just went for the D3 spray. And because it was bypassing her digestive system, for her, it was the best approach, and it did slowly build up the levels. So that it can be very effective. I'm taking at the moment, actually, I'm taking a PharmaNord. They're called D3 pearls, and I quite like them because they're with gelatin. Obviously, I'm not vegetarian, but with gelatin's actually very good. If you're not vegetarian, gelatin is very, very good for the gut. So it's a little pearl, and I quite enjoy them, and I quite like chewing them. So horses for courses, and chop and change every now and again. I always think is a good idea. So does the omeprazole stop me absorbing B12? Can you just take more B12 to compensate? Yes, you can. Absolutely. Especially you could do a vitamin B12 sublingual spray by Better You, because then you're bypassing that whole stomach coating issue. But it would be worth getting it tested, and you absolutely can. If you've been prescribed omeprazole, you are in your rights. It's really, really well documented. This is nothing new or faddy. It's you. Please get a blood test and see what the levels are, because sometimes people have excessively high B12 levels. So I would say, yeah, get a test, see where you are, and then do, if you're on omeprazole, do the sublingual spray. So great. Where can we get Pycnogenol? I get it again. I'm on Pharma Nord today. I should be like wearing a Pharma Nord badge, shouldn't I? But I buy it from Pharma Nord. But you can buy it. I'm sure you can buy it on iherb.com from many brands. But the brand I use is the Pharma Nord one. So yeah. Excellent. Well, it's lovely to see you all. Next week, I'm not actually here on Friday. I am going to be at Falmouth University with my daughter. We're doing the university rounds at the moment. She's so lucky to have got some good offers, and so next Friday I'll be at Falmouth University. But I'll be back for I think it's Good Friday the week after. I'll be back. Maybe we should be talking about chocolate and Easter eggs and how to manage all of that, how to navigate Easter. And then of course we'll be talking about getting back on the reset if anyone's interested. So I'm working behind the scenes on all of that. So fantastic. Well, it's great to see you all. Please share this video. Please like and subscribe. Thank you all so much for showing up every Friday. It's lovely, like I said, lovely to see you all and to see all your names in the chat. So have a great weekend, and top up on your vitamin D, get out into the sunshine, and see you soon. Bye everyone.